A short clip from his appearance at the Action Junkies podcast revealed that Dana recently underwent a DNA test to find out how long he has left to live.
All right, let's talk about Dana White and let's talk about Joe Rogan, because Dana White had a very interesting story come out yesterday that I heard and was like, whoa, for 8 different reasons. And it had to do with his life expectancy and some guy who told him how long he's going to live. And then also we're going to talk about Joe Rogan, because Joe Rogan has been discussing that if Dana White leaves the company, that he's going to leave also. And then I just want to talk about the likelihood of Dana leaving the company. I mean, look, like this is certainly, you know what, as a matter of fact, let me take it this way. This video enables me to clarify like what I do on this channel for those of you who are new, you know, who might have like gotten on and watched me make some ludicrous, hypotheses or things that seem ludicrous to you, right? All I'm doing on this channel is I hear a story and then I just think out loud. Like I realize that. I'm like, that's literally all it is. It's me and a camera. There's no one here. You know what I mean? Like there's no one here. There's me, computer, some lights and a camera. Like I'm not talking to anyone. I'm just thinking out loud. And I just happen to be able to be, you know, moderately entertaining and well-spoken while I think out loud. Sometimes well-spoken, sometimes not. I say like a lot. But so on that note, that is exactly what we're going to do, because Dana, again, this is a crazy story. But before I get into that, I just want to say this. If you like this content, feel free to subscribe and ring the bell. Tell your friends, forward it around. I need to get some more shorts up. Shorts are the key to channel growth now, and I've been slacking on that this week, but I appreciate all the help that you guys can provide by subscribing, commenting, liking the video, etc. So, yeah, let's start here, actually. So I went live when I heard this yesterday. So I heard this story about Dana, and I went live yesterday, and I titled it, Dana finds out he doesn't have long to live, right? And I guess it's like, I don't know, how long is long to live is kind of subjective. But when I tell you what the story is, if you don't already know it, I don't think this is like a big reach to say that the amount of time that he was told he has left was kind of shocking. It shocked me, shocked me when I heard it. And I got pissed on the live stream because people kept coming on there. Oh, what's this clickbait? And I was like, you think I would clickbait something about Dana, doesn't have long to live? You think that's a guy like that? That's really, oh, that's what you did with Mike Tyson. No, what I said is Mike Tyson dying because Mike Tyson said he was dying in an interview. Like, hello, there's a picture and video of him in a wheelchair, and he says he thinks he's going to die very soon. How would you suggest to title that if you have any talent for YouTube? Anyway, so I don't know. Like I actually, because I was like, why did that piss me off so much? People say clickbait all the time. That's why. It's like, dude, you really think I would joke around or clickbait something about like life expectancy? Come on, man. So anyway, so what Dana said is he said that he went to some guy who takes your DNA, does some kind of DNA mapping, and then tells you the exact day you're going to die, and he's usually right within like a month. And I was like, well, I mean, obviously you can't factor in car accidents with DNA, but you know what you can do is know that this is your best case scenario, Like if this is actually accurate, if this DNA testing thing is accurate, then what you're actually saying is your best case scenario as of now per your DNA is you're going to live another this many years. And in Dana's case, it was 10 years. I was like, 10 years? He's like 50? I mean, he's a little older than 50. But dude, guys that are that rich don't die when they're 61, 62. That's not normal. Like literally, when I think Dana, I think NFL owner, right? Because you want to think lifestyle, etc. Dana obviously works absolutely nonstop. But I don't know. I mean, maybe NFL coach, NFL owner, whatever. But the bottom line is 10 years is what the guy told Dana. Per his DNA, he's going to live for 10 more years. Now, one thing I will say is this. This is kind of a weird, well, not weird, it is relevant. I have learned recently that your DNA is not set, right? Like I thought you were born with your DNA and your DNA is what it is. And that the things that you do have no impact on what your DNA would read when you're older. And that's not true, actually. So it's like, essentially the way that it really works this is just a guy that was on the Joe Rogan podcast, is how I learned this. But like you got like a baseline of DNA. And then as you make decisions, it's like you have an endless amount of possibilities, and how you live is going to dictate, where your DNA goes from there. It's not just dead set in stone. And that's very relevant to this story, in my opinion, because, I think when people hear like, oh, DNA testing got 10 years to live, that means like, oh, there's nothing you can do. And I don't think that that's true, per the guy who was on, Rogan's podcast. Now, in case I'm not being clear, I am not a scientific expert on any of this. I have no idea. If Dana says the guy, predicts within a month, that's the level of investigation I did into that claim. Dana said it, so I'm like, yeah, he predicts within a month. But I can say, objectively, just as a person who can connect dots, that if what the DNA says you got 10 years, then what that means is that's your best case scenario as of today, because there's a million ways that you could die that have nothing to do with DNA, right? You could go bungee jumping and you die. But the reason why this is all notable is because suddenly people have been talking about Dana White leaving the UFC. Now, and I know this because people hit me up with all this stuff, right? Like the same way that I just kind of empty my mind on the channel, people empty their mind in the comments or in my email, and I read them, right? And all of a sudden there was like a big group, like a large amount of people that were like, oh, who do you think's going to take over when Dana retires? Do you think it's Chael? Do you think it's this guy? Whatever. Dana's implied that it would be Hunter, I think, just in the way that I interpret the things that he said, because he said it's a guy who's behind the scenes that you guys don't know. I mean, obviously, if you pay really close attention and you've heard Hunter's name before, I think a lot of people are starting to figure out that Hunter is like the kind of COO, like he runs the day-to-day, like for the business. He's the one negotiating all that stuff. So I think that that's who he's implying. I still think that there's going to have to be like a front man though. If it was Hunter, then maybe they do bring in someone like Chael to do what Dana does publicly. There's a lot to what Dana does. As a matter of fact, basically everything that Dana does at this point, aside from being the ultimate decision maker, is about public facing. He is tied to that brand. His face is tied to the brand. So maybe they do bring in Chael if that was to happen, or someone like Chael. But yeah, anyway, but like when people would talk about that, my response to them was always the same. Dana's never retiring, dude. Dana is never going to retire. And the reason I said that is because why would he? He loves it, Like the reason why because he's got so much money, man. Why doesn't he just retire? Do you really think that this is about money for him at this point? I understand. I really do. Because I'm certainly not in a financial position where I've had to face this decision myself. But I know a lot of people with a lot of money. And, not that I've had a million conversations about this, but I just know from just putting myself in their position that it's like, all right, so you retire. Now you have $100 million. In Dana's case, much more than that. Okay, so what are you going to do? Like, what are you going to do? Right? What are you going to do with your days? Oh, play golf. Oh, yeah? You going to play golf every day? And for some people, maybe that'll be enough. But for the kind of personality it takes to build the UFC, I don't think that's going to be enough for Dana, man. So it's like, what are you going to do? There's not that big of a difference between being unemployed and being retired with a lot of money, other than kind of the things you can go buy. I mean, yeah, you could travel, but you don't have any purpose. Like, you need something to do. A man needs something to do. So to me, I'm like, he's never going to retire. He loves what he does. He's the happiest guy in the world. He's the happiest guy in the world. It's like Jimmy Hoffa. And that's a weird example, but Jimmy Hoffa, all he did is work, and he barely slept because he loved it. He literally loved it. I mean, seriously, at whatever point that I'm getting paid enough to where I can just really for real just go, I'm just going to do this, where I just talk and do content. Yeah, they'll be like, oh, when's he going to hang it up? I'll be like, never. Why would I? I love doing this shit. And I don't even have a good crew yet that I do this with. You put me on a show where I just bullshit with my buddies about topics that I love, I'll fucking never retire. Why the fuck would I? It's still work, you know? So yeah, I just thought Dana would never retire. I just thought he would never retire. That was always my answer. But then when Joe was saying, like, it's in his contract if Dana leaves and he leaves, I was like, man, all right. And so many people have talked about it. And then this story about the DNA, I'm like, dude, is he setting up that he really is going to leave? Because I don't know, why would he tell that story? You know what I mean? I mean, again, I have no solid hypothesis here other than just to say, I always just think about things like that, where it's like, all right, well, there are things you just say that you just say it. You're at a press conference, somebody says something, you just say it. You're just talking, right? And there are other things where it's like, why would a person say that if he had no purpose? And maybe he's just talking. Maybe it's something that he just found out and it was an emotionally impactful thing and he's just talking, right? To a person on a podcast. Maybe. Or maybe not. Maybe it's possible that he's considering, you know, having his role change in the UFC. Like, I don't think he would just completely disappear, but maybe take a huge step back. I don't know. I mean, that's, again, I'm just talking. I'm just thinking out loud here because I found that, yeah, I don't know. Why would he have said it if it, I mean, again, maybe he's just talking. But it is interesting that if he goes, then Rogan goes. So I want you to seriously think about this. Seriously think about this. If Rogan and Dana left the UFC, how fucking bizarre would that be? Now, I am under no illusions here. You'd get used to it relatively quickly, especially if they put Chael into Dana's role. I'm trying to think of who else could do it, you know? I'm just talking, like, in terms of, like, the public-facing part of it, right? Like, Chael or, I don't know, man. I think Chael would probably do the best job of anybody that I can think of for the public part. I'm not talking about all of a sudden he becomes the ultimate decision maker at UFC, obviously. I mean, I would assume Dana would probably remain. He would probably stay on chairman as the board and just would take a step back. But anyway, so, like, and then Rogan would disappear, and that would be really bizarre from the pay-per-views, but that you'd get used to that pretty quick, I think. But I think it just initially it would feel super bizarre, man. I don't know, when Goldberg was gone, that shit felt weird for a while. And I'm going to be straight up, I could never make a full video about this, but when I watch old fights, when Goldberg, like old enough that it's Goldberg and Rogan, I'm sorry, it's better. It just is, man. I have gone hard and deep on reporters who write negative articles about the UFC commentary. I'm not doing that at all. I think all the commentators are great, especially Laura Sanko. That's actually kind of not a joke. She's great, dude. And my goodness gracious, you guys should see her in real life, dude. Ridiculous. She's standing right next to us at Fighter Hotel for 274, and I was like, good God. She doesn't look like, I can't really describe it. You're like, she's in such good shape that you're kind of like, I didn't know a person can look that athletic and that sexy at the same time. It's kind of shocking. But yeah. Anywho. So, I don't know. Now, like I said, I'm just literally talking, thinking out loud, just saying things, you know? I don't know what else to say about this other than that's it. Love you guys. Peace.